All right, here we are. Episode number 2.
Yes.
Right? Number 2.
Yeah, we're already on 2.
Look at that. It's amazing. All right, so hey, let's talk a little bit more about demographic, right?
Yes.
In terms of our individual clients. So now we're working together, which is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about the overlap, but also there are some differences. So let me ask you, what is your ideal demographic when you're looking for clients?
So I like to work with people who are in some kind of life transition. Especially it seems to be kind of like young adults, maybe finishing university, just starting a new career,
Amazing.
or even just like figuring out like, what do I want my life to be? I like that.
That kind of stage.
Yeah, the kind of meaning making that happens kind of at the beginning of your life in that way.
Very cool.
But also other stages of life. So I also work with adults. Don't you
do loss?
Yes, grief and loss, and specifically more pet loss is going to be like a focus for me.
I love that.
I feel like that's a niche that's not really covered. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's like a particular sensitivity you have to have towards it, because I think not everybody understands that that's real loss, or they don't always count it as real, which seems to be very distressing for people.
Yeah, I can imagine. Of course.
And yeah, I mean, also I would just say one of the main differences is you work on the East End, I work on the West End.
Well, there is that, absolutely. I mean, obviously we still do things online as well, right? Sort of a hybrid, online and also in person. But in terms of our offices, you're right. So I am East End, you're West End. So we can cover much of the city, which is great. And then I would say that some of the differences for me, obviously, is that I love working with teenagers. So youth, but whatever that looks like, and families. So yeah, that's sort of my passion, I think.
What is it that you like about working with youth and families?
Oh my God. I think I like teenagers more than most adults. No, jokes aside. What I really love about working with teenagers is that it's at the beginning, right? It's a lot about sort of helping them understand the tools that they already possess and how to use them, I think. And then teaching them how to show up in the world, helping them determine what they want to be, who they want to be, how they want to be, that kind of thing. And developing the skill set that they'll be able to take through the rest of their lives when it comes to being, a student, but then also being an adult, being a parent, if that's what they choose, being a boss, being an employee, whatever. It doesn't matter, but it's different when you're working with somebody who's 40 and you have to undo some patterns, which is very meaningful work as well. But there's something about teenagers that I love. And also there's no bullshit. Can we swear on our podcast?
Yes.
I think we can, since it's our podcast.
I think it's going to have to
be. And I swear in my sessions anyway. So
yeah, why pretend?
Why pretend? Exactly. And what I love about teenagers is they have this like bullshit meter, right? And so if you show up authentically, I think that's the ball game, so to speak. And I love it. I find it refreshing. I find it exciting. And at the risk of sounding super cheesy, which I am accused of often by my teen clients, they give me hope for the future. They really do. So, and then working with families, it's not about love ever. I mean, I don't think I've ever had an experience where that was the issue. It's always about figuring out where the disruptions are, right? And being able to sort of identify and then heal some of that so that the families can be closer together. And so I find that very meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's never too late. If your kid is 17 or 19 or 21 or whatever, I think there's always richness there.
Yeah.
But we were talking earlier about our areas of overlap.
Yeah. So I was saying I also like to really work with introverts. And oftentimes an overlap of that is people who are quite sensitive.
Yes.
And have been told they're too sensitive.
No one ever tells you to
get more sensitive,
right? Why don't you be more sensitive? Yeah, that's not a thing. Should be.
Should be, for sure.
All right. So I love when we have that conversation about our overlap in terms of you do sensitive people, I do sensitive people. And yet I feel like we're sort of two sides, opposite sides of the same coin, sort of. Right. So, I mean, when I think of the people that I work with, most of the time, much of the time rather, they've been told they're too big. So they take up a lot of space. Right. I don't think it's the same for you.
No, I think if anything, it's like they've been told that nobody cares about their
Hmm.
feelings. So, like, why bother expressing them anymore?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like they just go internal,
Right.
right? But they still experience the world in a very raw way,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
they're affected by a lot of things, but they don't actually like tell people that they are anymore.
Well, and I think what's interesting about the big people is
Mm,
that I think that in being very big, it's very easy to be missed, right? So I think what our people have in common is that they're missed. They're missed or
mm,
they're misunderstood. Maybe they're invisible. Maybe they're so big that people can't see the real person.
yeah.
But I think the experience is similar. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think there's a way in which you feel very like alone,
Yes.
and also I often hear from people like that they got the message that there's something wrong with them,
Yeah.
right? And so saying like you're too sensitive or you're too much, like it's just, yeah, it's saying like be another way, and you're
It's
kind of
right.
like, I don't really know how to show up in another way. And I think a lot of the work I end up doing is kind of like undoing that messaging of actually being like, no, it's okay the
Hmm.
way you are. Like it's perfectly valid, and here are the, benefits, drawbacks, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So almost moving from the you're too much and also not enough at the same time. That's what I hear from a lot of people. To no, you're just fine the way you are,
Yeah,
right? And figuring out ways to support an authentic way of being in the world, right?
absolutely. And like finding a place where you can accept your own sensitivity
Mm-hmm.
and be okay with it, because I think that then allows you to not care as much when other people don't get it. You're kind of like, oh, okay, well, you don't get it.
Yeah, it's like you're too sensitive, for you,
For them.
for them,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. And sometimes I'll use the example of sensitive. I'll say the word sensitive, and you can see people kind of going, "Oh
People
my god,
hate
I
that
hate it."
word.
Right? And I'll say, "Okay, well, instead of sensitive, how about we say intense?" And intense, like watercolor versus oil painting, right? And
Mm.
when I think of intensity and sensitivity, I think of oil painting, so like that deep or
Mm.
water, right? Does that make sense?
No, explain it a little more to me.
Okay, so this idea that there is incredible depth. So on the surface, you might not be
Mm.
able to see what's going on, but things, if you're sensitive, takes one to know one. If you're sensitive, I think things get in there, they
Mm.
hit harder, they hit deeper, and it's harder for us to transition out of it.
Mm.
So it takes more time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like the impact happens quickly, or like the
Yes.
thing happens quickly, but like to be able to actually like process it takes more
Yeah.
time.
And sometimes I'll talk to people like, if you ever watch a horror movie and there's a jump scare, what
Mm.
happens, right? And so those of us who are sensitive are impacted by the
Constantly.
jump scare. And
Yeah.
then it takes a really long time for our bodies to calm down.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we overlap, right? Is helping people or connecting with people who need to, I don't know, almost kind of like reframe
Mm.
what sensitivity means and
Absolutely.
see it really as a superpower, frankly. I
Yeah.
think. I mean, I think it makes life inherently very rich.
Yeah.
And that includes like that's the bad things as well as the good things. But I mean, from my perspective, a life well lived is a rich life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think it's like when you have that sensitivity, it's like you could feel things so deeply, and
yeah,
that can be so beautiful, right? Like
absolutely.
yeah, connecting with art, like
Yep.
music, uh yeah, lots of like, those type of creative pursuits touch you in a different way that maybe they do other people, and
I think so.
that could be so just enriching.
So I think maybe to distill it, when I think of our roles as therapists or the way we show up in a therapy session individually, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here's monkeys coming to join the conversation. So nice. I feel like sometimes I am the breaker, like I'm the rock wall or whatever that the waves are crashing against, right? So my job is to stand firm and to be able to contain.
that intensity.
That intensity, exactly.
The
right?
like too muchness that
That's
they
right.
show up with.
Because I can do it, right?
Yeah.
I can stand there and be there with compassion and love, really, but patience and an authentic curiosity as well. I think about where that person's coming from.
Yeah.
I think you share that aspect, but how do you do it differently?
I think if anything, I'm more like drawing it out of people, right? So it's like working with the water metaphor. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like the shore that the
Mm-hmm.
people are kind of ebbing and flowing with, where it's like there's an invitation to
Mm-hmm.
come closer to me, but like I'm not gonna grip onto you. Like
People's space.
you can come and go, I'm like I'm just like here holding steady. So we're both like holding steady, but
Holding space
in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.